For decades, we've been told that heart disease is caused primarily by one thing, cholesterol. But what if that story is misguided, and the real drivers of cardiovascular disease have been hiding in plain sight? Today, our special guest is here to help us unpack how heart disease really develops, why some of the most common treatments may be making it much worse, and what you can do to begin supporting your heart health today. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Life TV Now, where we unpack all matters of truth, faith, and freedom. I'm your host, Joe Artis Horn. I think today may be a series of divine appointments for you, the viewer. I have a feeling somebody out there watching this program's life may change today with the revelation that we're going to be talking about right now. But before we dive in, let me introduce who's here. She's an integrative nutrition health coach with a Master of Science in Health Education, my co-host, Jamie Woodall. And he's a doctor of pharmacy with over 35 years of experience who completed a pediatric residency at the Medical University of South Carolina. He has spent 29 years as a clinical pharmacist and the author of the best-selling book, Your Plate is Your Fate. He now promotes disease prevention and reversal and is dedicated to helping others embrace true health through nutrition education. Please welcome Dr. Steve Hughlett. If you missed last week, you have to go back to the archives, whether that's the Skywatch television mobile app that you can download free from the App Store, or perhaps Rumble. Maybe you've caught some of this on YouTube, or maybe you're watching from the PTL or other networks. Go back and watch our program with Dr. Steve Hughlett on this constant emergence now of GLP-1, these get thin quick schemes that are affecting the pancreas and insulin resistant and a cascade of other health, probably consequences that we haven't even begun to be able to track yet because we don't have a decade post-mortem on all the casualties of some of these medications. In our view, go back and make sure that you catch up. We talked about type 2 diabetes, the real root causes of metabolic disease, and gave some very thoughtful ways that you can begin to take steps to improve your health. Today, we're going to zero in on something that is very specific in terms of heart health, because one of the things that you hear, Dr. Steve, it is such a common tale. People watching this program are probably right now, many of them living on statins, which seems to be Western medicine's approach to what they decry as cholesterol levels that are dangerously high.
Right.
Now, I've seen books like The Great Cholesterol Myth. Most of the practitioners and the natural approach doctors that I work with will say that a lot of that is based on a mythos that has been designed on purpose to create a customer base of people depending on statins.
Yeah.
I want to ask you what your thoughts are, because I'm not seeing this thing square. People begin medications to lower cholesterol levels. I don't see healthy outcomes from a lot. Not long term, I don't see that.
No.
I very seldom see people, hey, I got better and I'm off medications. It's almost more like it begins the cascade of 3 to 5 years later, they're on another medication. And then within a decade, they're on 3 to 5. And then there goes, eventually, they're in their 50s and now they're living on oxygen. And then eventually they're more and more feeble. They're weaker. This is not, I don't think, the trajectory that God has for us in terms of making sure that our heart health is actually addressed. The root cause of what's causing, let's say, arterial plaque or blockages, or the underlying root causes of stroke, or the things that they're treating you for when they raise alarm to this whole conversation. In your view, these statins, the whole conversation around the cholesterol myths and what we're taught is how we're supposed to manage heart health.
Yeah, you've got to remember, drug companies it's a business. They are there to make more money. And so the thing they can do is, if they make a drug that has an adverse effect, they have more drugs for that. So just remember that they're a business. And what's crazy is, if you looked at last week's episode and we talked about diabetes, it really, all this is centered around the same thing, and it's glucose and insulin. It's all centered around the same thing. Even with cholesterol. You got to realize, we have been duped. It is not high LDLs. That's not what is causing cardiovascular disease. Our body has to have cholesterol. We could not live without cholesterol.
Right.
every single cell in our body that has a nucleus, which every cell except red blood cells makes cholesterol, because a cell needs cholesterol to live, and we need cholesterol to live. And it's so important that cells, and this will all come back around to statins, cells have two ways of getting cholesterol. They all make it by themselves. They make the amount, but if you need more cholesterol, because we need cholesterol in producing more fat cells, a lot of our hormones, testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, cortisol, vitamin D, those are all made out of cholesterol. Our bodies need cholesterol and needs fat. Every single cell is that way. So to say that every single cell makes cholesterol, our liver, it makes about 80% of all the cholesterol our body uses. Our brains use about 20% of all the cholesterol we need. We need cholesterol. What's happening is there's two different LDLs. And they always say, look at the LDLs. But there's two different kinds. There's a healthy kind that God made. We have it forever, and that's called the large, buoyant LDL. But then there's a small, dense LDL, and that is the killer, is the small, dense LDL. The way you get them is, again, just like I talked last week, when you eat all this glucose, and you're eating glucose all the time, okay, but it's in all man-made foods, all plant-based foods, you're getting glucose. When you eat glucose goes in your blood produces insulin to get rid of it. One of the main things that insulin does to get rid of this glucose is it turns it into triglycerides. So now you have a liver that's sitting here and it's making all these triglycerides, and then it also makes cholesterol, and it needs to transport that out around the body. So it puts it in a little protein ship. That's why it's called a lipoprotein. A very low density lipoprotein means it's a protein shell that has a lot of cholesterol and a lot of triglycerides in it. Okay, that's VLDL. And that's how it leaves the liver. So it goes around the blood and it's giving the cholesterol and the triglycerides to all the different places that need it. And as it does, it shrinks. It goes from a very low density lipoprotein down to an IDL, an intermediate density. And then it shrinks down to low density, and a low density lipoprotein is LDL. So VLDL turns into an IDL, turns into an LDL. Once it turns into an LDL, after it's given a lot of its cholesterol and triglycerides away, it goes back, it attaches to the liver takes it back up, and it turns it back into a VLDL again by putting more cargo, more cholesterol and triglycerides. That's the way our body normally works. That's the way it works. However, when you eat so much glucose, which we do all through the day, every day, year after year, when you eat so much, you're producing a ton of triglycerides. So now, when your body's producing this little VLDL and it sends it out, it has a lot more triglycerides and just a little bit of cholesterol in it. So as it starts going around, it starts giving up the triglycerides and cholesterol, it shrinks down to the IDL, shrinks down to an LDL, but now it's shrunk down smaller because now it's giving away those triglycerides, putting in the fat cells, and so it shrinks down more. So now it becomes a small, dense LDL. The problem with that is when it goes around your bloodstream, it goes and attaches back to the liver to say, okay, I'm ready to become a VLDL again. It doesn't attach. It's so small, it doesn't fit the receptor. So the small, dense LDL stays out in the circulation for a long time. And as it does, you have glucose. Most of the people, you're producing it because you're eating glucose all the time. So glucose attaches to the proteins. That's why you don't want a high blood glucose, because it attaches to proteins and it kills every protein. And same thing with this. So it attaches to this LDL. Plus you have inflammation, so this LDL becomes inflamed. And you also have a lot of free radicals, so it becomes oxidized. So now you have this small, dense, inflamed, glycated, and an oxidized small, dense LDL. That causes damage to the blood vessels, and glucose causes damage to the blood vessels. So it tears it open, that gets inside the blood vessel. Now your body says, oh, there's something in my blood vessel that's not supposed to be there, and so it sends out markers to try to get rid of it. And as it does, it overcompensates and it starts making ballooning. It comes out called foam cells. It balloons out into the blood vessels, and that's where you get your plaque. That's where you get your all your clots that are breaking off. And it all started because you're making too many triglycerides because of the glucose.
And then what is the diet? They're telling you to avoid all of these healthy fats that you actually need for brain function, and also the endothelial lining inside of your entire cardiovascular network needs those healthy fats to go ahead and repair and to create almost like a slick coating to the inside of the wall. So when your insulin is high, when your glucose is high, and you're not addressing those underlying root causes with a statin, the inside of your veins just continues to be completely eroded, completely destroyed. And when then it is more like a sandpaper type texture, it gets very sticky and very pasty, it wants to grab these LDLs that you're describing and then pack that to try to self-repair. And that is what is the beginning of internal cardiovascular plaque. So a lot of these statins don't address any of the underlying root causes, but what they do is they prevent the liver from creating cholesterol. So you go on for, a decade, and then some of the damage begins to calcify. Some of the damage begins to be so runaway that your window to have tried to, and by the way, I'm not trying to cast fear, because I don't want people feeling there aren't things that they can do immediately to start opening those vascular networks, to start repairing the inside of their endothelial lining. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah. And you do it by giving your body nutrients. Our body knows how to repair itself. We just don't give it the nutrients it needs.
Yeah.
It needs the protein, it needs the fat, it needs the cholesterol, it needs all those things in order to be able to repair and do everything that it does. We give it toxins, so it's sitting here, we're having damage, and the body doesn't have the ingredients it needs to fix the damage.
And then we block the liver's function in the manufacturing of cholesterol that your body needs.
Right.
And then we see these artificial numbers drop on a lab, and we say, hey, you're looking better. Things are looking up, but you've ignored the underlying root cause, which is probably, in my estimation, I don't know if you agree, setting these individuals up for long-term damage and probably a lot more frightening outcomes.
Oh, huge.
What are some of the normal signs of cardiovascular disease that are developing that doctors will just describe as aging, or this is routine? Hey, you're in your 50s, you're going to have shortness of breath now. You're not a spring chicken anymore, Dr. Steve, right?
Yeah, oh yeah,
right?
That's what they tell you.
It's normal aging, it's hereditary.
Yeah, that's true. And so that's mainly it, because the heart is just a pump. It's just sitting there and it's pumping. It pumps blood to the lungs to get oxygen, comes back down. It's actually 2 pumps. And then it pumps the rest of the body. So obviously, if you start having blockage and you're not getting enough oxygen to the heart, one, the heart itself kind of starts to die, and the other is it has to pump harder to get more oxygen around. So that's one of the first signs is you get tired on exertion. So you find out that you can't walk upstairs like you used to. Now you can't walk across the floor like you used to.
Right.
And it's all because you're overworking your heart. And the thing with cholesterol is they've done studies. The cholesterol that you eat, they've had people eat cholesterol and then measure the cholesterol in the blood. They have nothing. That's 2 totally different things. You don't raise your blood cholesterol by eating cholesterol.
Right.
That's a lie.
myth.
So let me ask you though, where did this fat makes you fat? I've heard you talk about this pivotal moment in 1955 when President Eisenhower had a cardiovascular event. Is that when they started the fat makes you fat?
Yeah, he had a heart attack in 1955. Before that, people weren't having heart attacks. This is all new. Almost every disease state that you see right now is kind of new after our dietary guidelines came out in 77. But that heart in 55, 2 different people went out. There was John Yudkin, who said that, no, this is sugar that's causing this. And then Ansel Keys, who said, no, it's fat. So Ansel Keys, he was a lot better promoter, went around to all these countries, did no studies whatsoever. He just happened to notice in some of these countries, the obese people were also eating fatty food. So he said, oh, fat must make you fat. So he went out and did the study, looked at 21 different countries, and to prove that eating fat makes you fat. 14 of those countries did not prove that. So he just dropped them out of the study. There were 7 countries that did, so it's called the 7-country study. But those 7 countries that they weren't looking at, now when they go back and look at even them, their sugar intake was way elevated also, which goes back to everything we're saying. The glucose is what starts all of this. It's all the sugar, high fructose corn syrup, flour, which is just powdered glucose.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on. That's how it kind of went. So Ansel Keys, he was able to get in with the American Diabetic Association, American Heart Association. They got everybody saying that this is the way it is. And so that's when our fake food pyramid came out. No science behind that. That was from the sugar industry to tell the food manufacturers this is how you get more people addicted to your food.
Yeah.
It doesn't fill them up, doesn't give them any nutrients, so they're always hungry. They're always eating your stuff. It was a scam to get more people eating their stuff. Good business model, but horrible for us.
The salt myth actually came out of that study as well,
Yeah.
where they looked at the populations and they said, oh, well, salt is what is causing this high blood.
Hypertension.
Right,
Yeah.
which is crazy. You've got to have salt. Salt is so important. You put electrolytes.
You got to
in
get the
water
right
every day.
salt.
Yes, yeah,
That's
you got to be
important.
careful.
You don't want
where
to
get
go
your
to a
source.
big box store and buy the
Right.
table salt that they're offering.
No.
Likely, you want to get a pink Himalayan
Right.
or a
Too many heavy
nutrient dense
metals.
or a.
Yeah.
And you need the other things that come in. You
Celtic
need the
sea
potassium,
salt,
the
yeah.
magnesium, the
Oh, for
chloride.
sure.
It's all
Yeah.
part of it.
So right now, with statins being a $17 billion a year industry, and by the way, we're not disparaging doctors. We said this in the last
No,
episode.
yes.
Many of the doctors are altruistic in their belief that they want to help humanity.
Yeah.
This is why
Yes.
they chose that profession, and to their own agonizing sacrifice. They
Yes.
put away careers that maybe they would have preferred, or the possibilities of stardom, or maybe even more money in some cases, to do this thing and go through 7 years, take on student loans and go through college
Yeah.
because they want to help humanity. But again, and I'm always blaming more of the pharmaceutical companies that
Yes.
write much of the academia that these
Yeah.
people learn from.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
The fake food pyramid.
Yes.
I think we're seeing some healthy signs in the United States right now that culture is kind of post-COVID really learning that not all government messaging
Yes.
is prioritizing their health.
Right.
And I'll just let the viewers decide for themselves what I mean by that. But you're seeing the resurgence of farmers markets and people talking about nutrition. I even think that Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yes.
is a side effect of a culture that's demanding change.
Yeah.
And I would say, and you can call me a conspiratorial Looney Tune for this, I would say he's not going anywhere near far enough, but I'll take what we can get.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know if internally he's up against things we don't see.
Yeah. I
And,
agree.
Probably
and he's
is, yeah.
doing, I'm sure he is, and he's doing what he thinks he can do to make the culture more aware of some of what's been going on for decades. But he's like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
You know, it's from what they're spraying us with in the sky to
Right.
what they're putting in our bodies when babies are born, what they're
Yeah.
injecting. We talked
Yes.
about, GLP-1s last week. And you have a society that's very much interested in sitting and resting, or they're working and sitting and resting.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they are wanting gimmick, get thin, quick results with the popping of a pill or maybe an injection of a peptide. He's got his work cut out for him. I will
Yeah.
take, outlawing certain dyes in children's cereals, but I keep saying I don't have to eat that garbage.
Right.
Right.
That's the key.
Yeah.
We have all that. And that's what you think of. When you think of the food industry, that's not just the food industry that's a $1 billion, $1 trillion industry. The sugar industry is feeding them.
Oh, yeah.
The chemical industry is feeding them. The big ag with sugar, with soy, corn, and wheat, they're feeding them. So all these companies are making trillions of dollars off this food that's killing us. And then once it kills us, now the pharmaceutical companies are making money. And pharmaceutical companies, they're the ones who are paying everybody. They pay the doctors, the conventions they go to, the studies they do, the journals they get into, the peer reviews for the journals. They're paying for everything. So obviously they are wanting to make more money.
This is really important that we get to this because there will
Yeah.
be people watching this program, Dr. Steve, and they're so captivated by this. Many of them may even be living out currently the side effects of shortness of breath, fatigue. They don't feel right. They don't like these drugs that they've been given, but they've been told this is either hereditary, heart disease is inevitable. It's progressive. There is no stopping it. I can see you grinning right away because you know where I'm going with this. In your view, what are some of the things that people can start doing to do the unthinkable? And that is they're told you can't reverse cardiovascular disease, to
Right.
mitigate, to slow, to reverse, to improve heart health.
Right. Would you mind if I explained how statins work? Because I think it all
No,
goes back to
please,
that.
for sure.
Because it's going to be the same, whether you're reversing type 2 diabetes, whether you're reversing high cholesterol, no matter what you're reversing, it's all going to come back to the same thing. You got to watch what you eat. And when you're eating nothing but glucose, that's what the food companies have us do, is eat nothing but glucose. But what happens is, remember I said at the first, every single cell in our body makes
Yes.
cholesterol, and it needs it. But it doesn't just make cholesterol. It makes all the other things, they're called isoprenoids, that a cell needs to live. That cell needs to be able to live, to grow, to replicate, to talk to other cells. There's these isoprenoids. What happens is you've got a cell, and it needs cholesterol. It needs one of these, cholesterol is just another isoprenoid. Vitamin K is one that cells make. Coenzyme Q10 is one that cells make. Obviously, the cholesterol, they're called dolichols. There's all these different things. So a cell needs it. It says, okay, I need these things. I need these isoprenoids because I'm surviving. So what it does is it makes this little protein called reductase. Okay, HMG-CoA reductase. And what that reductase does is it's a little enzyme that's inside the cell. You eat food, and food attaches to this reductase. Once that does, that produces this chemical called mevalonate. And I promise I'm not going to get big in this, because mevalonate. From mevalonate, you make cholesterol, coenzyme Q10, vitamin K, these dolichols. They make all these other isoprenoids that the cell needs. So now you have a statin. So now you've got this cell, and it says, oh, I need some isoprenoids. I need some cholesterol or whatever. So it starts making this reductase. And now, instead of food attaching to that reductase, you have the statin. And once that statin attaches, it clogs it up. So now it can't make mevalonate. So the cell's sitting there saying, wait a minute, where's my cholesterol? Where's my coenzyme Q10? Where's my vitamin K? So it doesn't think it has what it needs. So it starts producing more of this reductase. And they've seen that in these patients that the reductase level in patients with statins, the reductase levels are very, very high because that's what the cell's doing. The other thing the cell does is it puts more receptors all around the outside. So as any cholesterol is coming by, it'll attach it and bring that cholesterol in because it's dying. The cell is dying, it needs it. So now it brings this LDL in. The LDL is just a fat mobile, so it brings the cholesterol in from that fat mobile. But now it's sitting there saying, well, now I have my cholesterol. Where are my other isoprenoids? And so the cell dies. You're actually killing every single cell in your body when you take a statin.
Oh my
and that's why
goodness.
people are seeing severe muscle pain because that's the most active site. Your muscle cells,
Yeah.
that's most active. So they're going to see that first. But it's actually killing every single cell because every single cell in your body makes cholesterol. So that's what's happening. So when you're looking at the bloodstream, yeah, your LDL is coming down. But LDL isn't what's doing it. It's not cholesterol. It's the small, dense LDL, like we just talked about. That's what's causing it. Is not cholesterol. Cholesterol is vital to our existence. We have to have it. So taking a statin is actually killing your cells, and that's why there's so many adverse effects with these.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, what we are not suggesting that you do today responsibly is go to your medicine cabinet and take everything and toss it into the
Right.
recycle bin. What I would suggest is to find, a medical practitioner that is in alignment with your goals. So if it is a goal of yours that you want to wean away from some of these medications and maybe look at healthy alternatives that actually support, heart health, longevity, vitality, things like that. I could sit here and recommend, most of the chiropractors that I know have vast knowledge of Chinese medicine and a lot of the naturopath doctors or the NDs or the homeopathic doctors, or there's so they call it CAM, C-A-M, care and alternative medicine. But finding a practitioner that is in alignment with your goals, and so that they can advocate. You have to advocate for your own health, but they will help you find the people that you need. If not, maybe even just help you transition to someone that might be able to be equipped to help you navigate those priorities. But ultimately, in my humble opinion, what this wants to look at is nourishing the body at the cellular level, not depraving it of what it needs and then spiraling it into an artificial paper construct that might be harming you over time. And I also want to make you aware of Dr. Steve's brand new book, and I'm going to bring this up on the screen for you. It's got an absolutely amazing cover. Let me read this because it says it all. Your plate is your fate, a simple guide to understanding how your food choices lead to more and more medications. And right now, if you want to make sure you get your copy of this incredible new work, you can visit edensessentials.com. And we're going to include in this special opportunity for a limited time while supplies last a couple of my works. Unlocking Eden, revolutionize your health, maximize your immunity, restore your vitality. That book I put out a few years ago. It deals with circadian rhythm, nutrient absorption, a word called methylation, your body's processes of absorbing and receiving and converting what you swallow for the benefit of your health, and the companion DVD, which is over 2 hours, the Unlocking Eden companion DVD that helps really enhance what the book asserts. All of those hold a retail value of $60, but you can get them right now while supplies last from edensessentials.com for only $42 plus shipping and handling. With just a few minutes left on the clock, Dr. Steve, I want to make sure that if people have enjoyed the last couple of weeks with you, right? I think you crammed a lot into just 2 short network episodes within less than an hour. Got to learn all of that. Thank you so much, because I know that your vision is to help people find freedom, to regain their medical autonomy, to be their own advocates, and to be able to get out of the imprisonment of medications and the doctor visits, and to reclaim their health, and to maybe not live with that feeling of foreboding doom that this is irreversible and absolutely inevitable, that I at some point am going to, I don't want to say out loud, where can people learn? Because I know you're doing way more than this program. You're speaking all across the nation as a health authority. You have your own podcast. You're up to almost 200 episodes of your own podcast. Where can people learn more about you and the important work that you're doing?
The easiest way, if you just go to drstevehughlett.com, that'll be our website. But if you use Dr. Steve Hughlett on anything, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, anything like that, you can find that. Our podcast is called Nutrition Prescription. It's wellness versus medication. And that's on everywhere that there's podcasting, it's on that system, so you can get a podcast anywhere. And then the book, the book, like I said, you can get here. It's on Amazon. You can get the book wherever you want to get the book as well. And that's the main thing. All we want to do is try to get the word out. We're trying to help people and let them know it is not medication. If you being on medication, thinking you're healthy is like taking out a loan and saying you're rich. That's not the way it works. So to be healthy, you really want to be on. If you can be on no medications, you're going to be so much better off.
Some of my personal favorites, if somebody's watching this and wants to jot a few things down, some of my favorite supplemental supports in people's, and again, talk to a health practitioner that you're comfortable with that is in alignment with your goals. But I often suggest people do their own reading about nattokinase, L-arginine, L-carnitine, black seed oil, fermented beets. You can get beet powder.
Yeah, fermented foods are great.
Fermented foods are amazing. There are lots of it. CoQ10. Coenzyme Q10. In fact, one of the most important when a naturopathic doctor is looking at somebody that's dealing with cardiovascular issues, one of the first things that they'll go to as a secret weapon in helping that person overcome is CoQ10 supplement form.
Yeah, and make sure they're not on statin because that's preventing your body from making CoQ10.
And that's why you don't want to do this without the guidance of somebody qualified. You do not, we're not suggesting, again, you run to the cabinets and just toss everything, because some of these don't play well with natural things. I've got friends, unfortunately, that are not doing well, and they've had to stop taking magnesium or vitamin K, things that are the absolute benchmark, foundational supports to the heart, but they can't take them because their doctors are saying this is ill-advised if you're going to continue on with these medications. And so I just, again, I leave that between them and the Lord to prayerfully consider their own path. But we just want you to be well, and that's why this program exists. Unfortunately, we're all out of time, but did you guys love having Dr. Steve on? We have to do this again at some point. We'll have to have you back
I'm
up.
so game. I'm always game.
It's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. We will have Dr. Steve Hughlett back in studio. If the Lord tarries and we're all still here, we will do it. Unfortunately, we're all out of time. For everybody here in studio, everybody up here on panel, Dr. Steve, thank you so much for being back with us again today. I'm Joe Artis Horn. Keep your eyes on the prize, which is Jesus Christ. We'll be back. If you want to get your own copy of Your Plate is Your Fate, you can do it right now at edensessentials.com. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to throw in this package, my book, Unlocking Eden, Revolutionize Your Health, Maximize Your Immunity, Restore Your Vitality, and the companion DVD, Unlocking Eden, which features Daniel Belt, Dr. Ralph Umbriaco, my father, the late, great Dr. Thomas Horn. All of that in a package right now for only $42 plus shipping and handling. Friends, this is a $60 value, yours right now, including Dr. Steve's brand new book, Your Plate is Your Fate, for $42 plus shipping and handling. Go to edensessentials.com.